What the hell? And I'll sing and then I'll give you the mic. All right, sure. And you can stand right up there by the flowers and you'll be right in the screen for the broadcast audience. For the broadcast audience. I'm going to just close this door back here. I think we're live, and I think we're ready to say welcome, everybody. All of you who have gathered physically, as well as all of you who are watching on Zoom and YouTube. We're really happy to host this event here at Community Church of Boston. We have a long time history of solidarity with the labor union movement. It goes back to even before we were founded in 1920. The earliest archives we have are photos of strikers and marchers having been roughed up by cops in Lawrence from the Bread and Roses strike. Come by sometime and we'll give you a tour of our archives on the 5th floor. It's a rich history, 103 years. I've got a song just to quick sing for you that sits right with this event, and we'll go right into the showing of the film. And here's how the song goes. For the people who stand up and march for their rights, solidarity, that's your part, solidarity. For the ones who shine lights through the perilous night, solidarity. solidarity. For the souls who risk everything, strong in their stance, so their children can have a fair chance. Power in unity, fighting for what can be. Solidarity, solidarity. For the workers who strike for a real living wage. Solidarity, solidarity. In a time where the rich rule this new gilded age, solidarity, solidarity, where so many have nothing and a few have it all, what your grandparents fought for recalled. Hear their proud voices ring in your memory, dreams of solidarity, solidarity. For the crowds that have gathered and filled the town square, solidarity, boom, boom, solidarity, with hope in their hearts and their hands in the air, solidarity, solidarity. They sing down all dictators and calling their bluffs. When you've had enough, you've had enough. Every fear will recede in this great human sea of solidarity, solidarity. One more time, solidarity, solidarity. All right, thank you. I'm going to hand this over to Bill Bumpus, who will introduce the film and tell us everything about what this is about. Thanks, Bill.
Everything about what this is about. How much time do I have? I'm Bill Bumpus in the Boston Labor Solidarity Committee. This is actually our first public event, I think, since the pandemic. So hopefully it'll be the first of many more. We're a small labor support group based in Boston. We stand for solidarity, embracing workers around the world struggling against their bosses, support for social ownership and democratic control of wealth, opposition to capitalism and imperialism, advocating rank and file controlled industrial unions to fight the day-to-day struggle against the capitalists and to carry on production once capitalism shall have been overthrown. Opposition to racism, xenophobia, sexism, and all forms of bigotry, support for worker-controlled co-ops, and support for class struggle as a way to a better society. So that's us. The film is about a successful organizing drive a few years back in a meatpacking plant that culminated in victory after a years-long struggle. And I think in the labor movement in the left, we often talk about learning from our mistakes, but we can also learn from our victories, and it's kind of more fun. So with that, on to the film.
Oh, my Bob.
When you don't have to compromise on style, quality, or price, there's only one thing to say.
Oh, my Bob!
Bob's Discount Furniture.
Southeast North Carolina is one of the poorest regions of the United States.
It's in Bladen County, Everybody's illiterate, as they say. Nobody knows nothing. So we're going to take this plan, we're going to put it there. What we got, we're going to put in here to work.
Sometimes called the corridor of shame, the border between North and South Carolina has always been marked by underfunded schools, weak infrastructure, and a lack of decent paying jobs.
Particularly in the South, we have to work to promote labor rights because the denial of labor rights and the legacy of Jim Crow and segregation have been two of the twin evils that has kept the South from economic development for all of its people and held us in poverty. You know, we're in what's called the Black Belt, the 11 states from Texas to North Carolina. And, you know,
Hey, how you doing? Oh, no, it's free. Check out our books for Christmas, huh? Oh, there we go. Once a Bakuna. I don't think we have any Bakuna. All right, I'll look for it. Somewhere in that.
3 accelerated the process. Hundreds of factories went to Mexico or Asia. The void was filled by companies seeking lower labor costs. Among them,
Large. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to. I don't know.
I can do it.
Carolina's status as a right-to-work state. A number of these companies set up shop in the area, including Smithfield Foods, which in 1992 built the world's largest pork slaughterhouse in Tar Heel, North Carolina.
You were too eager to get on.
Yeah.
Processing 32,000 hogs a day.
I always considered this area home. So after Desert Storm, I'd gotten out of the Army, and that's when I first started working at Smithfield. It was a brand new big employer in the area where you could go and get a job.
From the beginning, a number of the plant's 5,000 employees complained of abuse, low pay, and high injury rates. Within a year, a group of workers decided to stand up for their rights. Sick and tired of being poorly treated, they dared to take on one of the world's largest meatpacking companies.
You know, it's hard to fight with a big company like that, you know. It's one person can't do it, 2, 3, no, we need a lot of people be together, you know, because nobody can break us. We are together.
From 1993 to 2008, along with hundreds of others, these workers played an important role in the struggle. This is their story.
You know, even though I'd been in a combat zone, I was seeing things inside the facility that would, shock me sometimes, and it didn't take me long to realize, this was a pretty dangerous place, and if it continues to operate the way it's being operated, I've got a pretty good chance on, either being killed, maimed for life, or having some serious injury happen.
I've got hit by them hogs so many times on my knees. I mean, they turn around, they take you out almost off your feet. I seen him hit a guy and he went up in the air and came down, he broke his leg.
If you're unloading a truck and you got 250 hogs on the truck, and you're only one person and you gotta count out like 50 hogs, and then you gotta jump in between the other 200 hogs, you got 50 in front of you, 200 behind you. If something spooks them, there ain't nothing you can do about it. I've been knocked down and flipped over gates and everything trying to get out of the way of hogs, because they actually can hurt you.
Then when you get into the facility, then you're dealing with a lot of knives, a lot of different, environments from heat and cold, and so it's pretty.
Of occupational sectors. I study agriculture. I study construction. Meatpacking is right up there. Those rates that we were able to determine from our studies of how frequent injuries were happening per 10 workers or per 100 workers, it's one of the highest rates that you can find across any occupational sector.
Everything moved very fast up there, fast paced. And I was doing the hops like that, just getting them out the way and stuff. And the blade caught the tip of my gloves, pulled my finger over like that, and zoom. I got like partial amputations and lacerations on my 2 fingertips here.
No había trabajo fácil para estar ahí con mi daño.
I injured my hand. I began, to lose function in my wrist, lose strength. My fingers started locking down, and then after a while, they told me that they couldn't have me around anymore. That they didn't have a job for the injury that I had.
Probably the most prevalent type of injury in the industry is the injury related to repetitive stress, repetitive motion industry, or musculoskeletal disorder. It goes by different names, but the idea that workers are making, not hundreds, but thousands of cuts with the same motion, using the same muscles. In many cases, the companies try to deny that it's work-related. They will tell workers that, well, you must have hurt yourself moving furniture at home.
The average worker has 4.6 seconds to conduct the act, the task that he or she is tasked with. We're talking about fine precision cuts in carcasses that are moving at a very rapid pace. And if you're not able to conduct those cuts in a very quick and efficient way, then you're not doing your job well. But how does one do that when it's 4.6 seconds that you have to actually do the work before the next carcass comes by?
I think many companies have, their strategy is, let's run the lines at the highest possible speed to get the work done, and when that worker's body gives out, they'll go, either because they're injured and they go voluntarily, or they're injured and they go because they have to go, or they quit because they can't take it anymore, and bring a new body in.
They try to use that fear tactic on them, like they get up in your face and talking about you better do this and you better do that, and you, even though you doing your work, you're doing your work good, right, and everything, they'll come up in your face and point your finger at you and spit all in your face and curse and using profanity and all that.
How do y'all treat people the way y'all treat people? I mean, we're human. How can y'all just treat us the way y'all do and not even think about it? But they don't ever give you any kind of reaction. They just make it a little joke.
This young fella, 23 years old, supervisor, untrained, supervisor let him went in the barrel with a lot of deadly chemicals, and he suffocated up under there.
He did not have a safety belt. He did not have a co-worker to be with him. He was not advised of the dangers of working in enclosed spaces, all of which violate OSHA regulations. And he fell into the tank and died as a result.
Now this little girl have to grow up without her father.
As the years went by, life there became a big struggle. A big struggle. It was something, a place where I had never worked before, to being treated like that. I said, this is not a human job. This is more or less like an animal's job.
In 1993, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union began to organize the Tar Heel facility. They set up shop in a trailer located near the plant walls.
I guess I got mad enough, to start looking for options, and so I stopped in their office and they told me a little bit about what they were about, and they had a union meeting that night. So I went to the union meeting, and then I even went to the libraries, started reading about unions and reading about the history and stuff. Because I hadn't, in school, I had never been taught very little about unions.
The union that became the UFCW started in the Depression as the United Packing House Workers of America.
In the 30s, when the UPWA, the United Packing House Workers of America, forms and works with the CIO, the Congress of Industrial Organizations, to try to reorganize and revive a movement to organize packing house workers, they early on make very strong efforts to be a biracial union. In fact, they had a slogan called Black and White, Unite and Fight.
Over years of hard struggle, the UPWA won contracts with many of the nation's biggest meatpacking companies.
And then you had a period in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on where unions gained strength in the meatpacking industry. And it became a very good working class job with good wages, good benefits, good protection for workers. Workers were able to buy a home, keep their family well fed and clothed and so on, send their kids to college. And for a period of time, and this wasn't only the meatpacking sector, in a lot of industries this was the case.
In the 1950s, the UPWA and its leaders became stalwart supporters of the Civil Rights Movement and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Reverend King and other civil rights leaders learned community organizing and civil disobedience tactics from UPWA organizers. The UPWA was itself buffeted by change as the 1970s witnessed a migration away from traditional meatpacking areas. Plants moved from cities like Chicago and Kansas City to the rural Midwest and the South, where unions were weaker. In 1979, the UPWA combined forces with retail clerks to form the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, the UFCW, with a combined membership of over 1.3 million workers. At Tar Heel, the UFCW's fledgling campaign attracted a small but steady stream of workers.
And I was asked on several occasions, I said, well, why can't we have respect? Where do we get this respect from? Who can we get this respect from? That's why I joined the union, because that's what we needed.
In the early 1990s, the CEO of Smithfield Foods was Joseph Luter III, who vowed that the Tar Heel plant would never be unionized. The Luter family established Smithfield Foods in 1936. Through acquisitions and marketing, it grew to be the world's largest pork company, now processing more than 27 million hogs a year and generating revenues exceeding $13 billion. In North Carolina, the company quickly became a powerful force. Its network of contained animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, supplied millions of hogs to its slaughterhouses in the eastern part of the state. With production methods that included gestational crates, widespread use of antibiotics, and the storing of untreated hog waste in open-air lagoons, Smithfield and other meatpacking companies could reduce costs. The price tag: animal abuse and environmental degradation in every state where CAFOs operated. Smithfield workers at the Tar Heel plant didn't fare much better. The union's initial campaign culminated in a vote in August 1994. It was a defeat for the UFCW, which immediately filed complaints of unfair labor practices to the National Labor Relations Board.
U.S. law allows management to bring in anti-union consultants to train supervisors on how to conduct one-on-one meetings with their employees to intimidate them against supporting the union. Every year in the United States, about 20,000 workers lose their jobs because they're union supporters. It's been illegal since 1935. But for many companies, it's standard operating procedure. Because the penalties are so weak, they just do a cost-benefit analysis and they say, okay, we'll fire the top union activist. This will frighten everybody else away from the union. And then 3 or 4 years from now, we might have to give a little bit of back pay to somebody to get rid of them.
They had said they were firing me, they were terminating me for attendance, violating their attendance policy, when they had in fact violated their own attendance policy by firing me because they skipped, about 3 steps, and, I now know, it was, just simply a reason to get me out the door. They didn't care, what they violated, whether it was the law or their own policies and stuff. They just needed to get me out the door. Along with several other union activists inside the plant.
The UFCW and Smithfield representatives agreed to another vote to be held in August 1997. This vote was marred by a number of violent incidents, as well as arrests of union supporters.
And in the days and weeks leading up to the union election, in the 2 union elections in the 1990s, the sheriff's department would show up in riot gear. Not because there was any riot going on. In fact, there was never any indication of trouble like that. But it became a very powerful, intimidating phenomenon.
It's something that I had never experienced, to see the dogs, the cops everywhere. It was crazy. It was a mad crazy.
In the election, there were curious things went on. In addition to the election being tainted by management's outright unfair labor practices, there was a period of time when power was lost while the ballots were being counted and the lights went out and then the lights came back on.
And as I go back upstairs, going down the hall, turning the corner to go back to the break room, I see these 2 supervisors beating on one of the union rep. Get out, nigga, we don't want you here. Bring this trouble here, we don't want you here. Get out, get out, get out. And when I looked, when the union reps was getting up and the other supervisor went right behind him and took his fist and hit him in the back of the head. I says, oh my God, how am I gonna get out of here?
Whenever there's a union campaign, and especially in the Carolinas, and understand I did this work for 40 years, it's not unusual for any company in the Carolinas and in the South in general to conduct their own anti-union campaign, which involves what we refer to as captive audience meetings, where employees are required to attend meetings where the company gives their version of why they shouldn't have a union. There's nothing illegal about that. But in this case, the allegations and the threats that were made were so numerous and so pervasive that they had the intended effect of keeping the employees from having a fair election.
After the 1997 vote, the union once again brought charges of unfair labor practices to the National Labor Relations Board.
After we lost the election in 1997, so, yes, somebody informed me what they was doing, so that we had to wait and keep it strong and keep talking to the people that sooner or later the union going to make it.
It's hard, but you just have to keep praying and do your job. Just do your job and go home. At the end of the day, take care of your family.
It was a hard time for the campaign. The company's hold on victory seemed complete. The union's case against Smithfield moved slowly. And in 2000, the company received approval from the state of North Carolina to create the Smithfield Special Police Department, an armed 24-man security force with the power of arrest.
People would call it a jail, but it would be like a holding place. They would take you to, and they would hold you till the police got there. And they would intimidate you before the police got there. And they would say like, well, from here you go into the jailhouse.
I'm going into work. I said, it's just look like I'm going into prison. You got security guards here and over here. What they doing with guns? Why they gonna need guns out there on employees?
The special police officers intimidated workers they suspected of being union supporters. They photographed license plates of cars accepting union leaflets and interrogated the workers they arrested before turning them over to local law enforcement. Especially.
You think life is short? Football is short. The regular season is just 18 weeks. Just 3 days a week. Sometimes just 1 game a day. So cherish every over and under before it's over on FanDuel, with live betting on every NFL game. Because before you know it, a cold night at the Buffalo Bills game will just be a cold night at Buffalo.
Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Happiness is happiness.
Holiday weekend, I'm throwing an Oh My Bob celebration with on-trend dining like my
were the thousands of immigrants working at the plant. 2 of over 100 people arrested by the Special Police Department were Lorena and Jorge Ramos, who were falsely charged with arson after some other employees tried to dry work gloves in a microwave.
Llegó y me agarraron y me pusieron unas esposas y me pasaron por todo el pasillo, como una oficina de la fuerza policial que ellos tenían dentro de las instalaciones de la planta. Ahí nos tuvieron desde las 12 hasta las 6 de la tarde, sin poder usar el baño, sin tomar nada y con las esposas. Todo lo que ellos estaban diciendo era mentira, yo no había hecho nada, mi esposo tampoco. Ellos no tenían pruebas, solo querían, yo creo que solamente querían sacarnos de la planta porque yo estaba muy activa con la unión.
Such cases as the Ramoses were validated by a comprehensive report issued by Human Rights Watch. Lance Compa was the principal author of the report.
Maybe there was 1 or 2 small plants where something worse went on, but in terms of a major corporation, a large workplace, thousands of workers being affected, what the company was doing to those workers was outrageous, let alone illegal under both national law and international labor standards. But it was just the ferociousness of the company's anti-union campaign, I think, was unmatched.
For the next 5 years, the UFCW maintained its presence, never giving up. In 2006, Gene Bruskin, an innovative union tactician, was brought in to run the newly revamped Justice at Smithfield campaign.
Having tried for years to get justice through the labor board, the union had already decided, this was May of 2006, they had decided by December of 2005 when they hired me that they were done with the labor board. They were going to fight a campaign forcing some kind of a free and fair process for the workers. They didn't care what the labor board said. They weren't going to go through that rigmarole again and have Smithfield cheat. And we decided to figure out as many ways as possible to record the worker stories and take them out to the rest of the world, and whenever possible, take the workers out to the rest of the world.
Los marranos salen todos congelados de ahí.
The hogs come out frozen.
Y a mí me cayó uno en mi espalda.
And one of them fell in my back.
Y yo también reporté el accidente.
And I reported the accident.
Y me acusaron que estaba mintiendo.
And they told me I was lying.
Cuando eso pasó, yo tenía mi niño, estaba chiquito.
When this happened, I have my small children.
Y a veces él quería que yo lo cargara.
And sometimes he wanted me to hold him.
Y yo no podía.
And I wasn't able.
The company was so big, by now they were like a $10 billion company worldwide, that there was no way, no matter what the workers did, there was no way the workers could win it on their own. So our only real option was to create enough pressure on the company to try and force them to sit down with us and work out what we thought was going to be a fair process, that we give the workers half a chance.
The union then decided that they were going to take a new tack. This was their maiden voyage to try a vastly different approach to organizing. And what was brought in was, of course, the workers' centerpiece. Their voice was the most powerful and the heart of it. But then in addition to that, you built coalitions, and it was part of building a movement. You used strategic communications, and that was what I was involved in directing, the air war, social media, and all the different tools available to you, legal, research, etc., to create a very powerful and aggressive campaign.
The Justice at Smithfield campaign brought together outside organizations to support the union, including the NAACP, Jobs with Justice, the Beloved Community Center, and the United Church of Christ, and many others.
Well, historically, the NAACP and labor have always had a connection. Civil rights and labor have always had dual tracks in the same direction, if you will. I also knew that by bringing the NAACP into this, and with the recognition of the brand, and because it's right, it was going to bring more attention to it. But more than that, it was going to connect what should be connected anyway, and that's the work of labor rights and the work of civil rights.
We're not only here just for Justice for Smithfield, we're here for everything that's going on around America today. We stand tall with the NAACP, and we appreciate everything that y'all doing. We're going to win this battle.
What do you want? Justice! When do you want it? Now!
Jobs of Justice has had a long relationship with the United Food and Commercial Workers. And we were really approached early on by Gene Bruskin and Rigo Valdez in a conversation about how we can galvanize support outside of Tar Heel for these incredible workers who are standing up for their rights.
So we organized demonstrations in front of Harris Teeter stores in 10 different cities on the same day at the same time. And that meant that up in Hickory, in Durham, and Winston-Salem, we tried to get the clergy to play a leading role.
And we targeted some of their key markets. We put information out in the Washington market, which was a big market for them, a Baltimore market. We did advertisements on metro centers that just told the truth. It just told the stories of their workers. And that we felt was the best weapon.
And let me be really clear. As long as this product is packaged with abuse and is produced unfairly, you will and we will continue to go out to every place where this product is sold and tell him how it is produced. We will keep after Paula Deen, and we will step on her toes, and we will step on their toes. You know why? Because she signed an exclusive deal to represent Smithfield. That means she represents you.
We had to take this struggle and make it a national struggle. And we had to make it part of building a movement. And we had to make it something that people all around the country would care about.
Wanda, you made it! Hey, glad to see you. Glad to see you. That's what's up.
Yeah, she's what do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! And when do we want it? Now! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
What do you think Paula Deen should have to do with this?
Paula Deen needs to know the truth about Smithfield Packing Company, because Smithfield is based on lies, deceit, and cover-up.
Now, I talked to a representative today, and he told me no one has ever been fired for supporting the union.
Oh, yes, they have. I'm one of them.
Meet with the workers! Meet with the workers! Meet with the workers! Want justice! Wins now! Want justice! Wins now! Want justice! Now!
Eventually, the Court of Appeals ruled in May of 2006 that, in fact, all those things that the workers had claimed had really happened.
The judge determined that because of the widespread and pervasive nature of the unfair labor practices, that there should be a broad-based remedy, that the company should be not only be required to post notice in the plant, but that the notice should be read to the employees, to every employee in the plant, in English and in Spanish. That the employees who were unlawfully terminated should be offered their jobs back with back pay. That the union should be allowed access to the plant. That if necessary, a new election should be held in a neutral place.
The board found the company in violation, and then the company just appealed it through the court system until they ran out of appeals. And then in 2006 is when I was finally reinstated by the federal courts.
Keith Ludlam got his old job back in livestock and picked up where he left off 12 years before.
You know, he came and the first words out of his mouth was union, change.
Keith was one of about 10 people who got all their back pay, but he was the only one who demanded that he go back to work. And he went back in that plant, determined to organize and fearless.
I kind of turned the other cheek because I'm like, down here in the South, it'll never happen. Here in Smithfield, it'll never happen.
Terry was there working in livestock. I think he'd been there, 3 or 4 years.
There was this older lady, her name is Marilyn Bailey. There was hogs coming off the truck. And they was running fast. It had to be like 60, 70 of them. And she actually stepped in to try to cut the hogs off. And these hogs, these 300-pound hogs ran over her. Just trampled this poor lady. She's laying on the floor, she's concussed. Her head's bleeding. I'm looking around wondering what supervision is gonna do about it. What they did was they came and, picked her up and moved her to the side, laid her in the feces and the urine that was there, didn't care about her safety, and kept the hogs moving. So I'm like, hold up. They only care about these hogs. They don't care about human beings. That next break, spoke to Keith. I said, Keith, I'm down with you. Let's make it happen.
We use this as a mini pledge, but it's just that you're standing strong, and also it allows us to get the correct address. Most of these are done by workers, not organizers.
You've got to give people a sense of self-worth. You know, they say a labor organizer organizes, but actually the workers organize once they find out that they can affect a change in their life. You know what the union is, and then the steps that you take. You start negotiations.
They don't pay as much as they should pay us for the work we do.
What you can negotiate is certain things like seniority rights. And if it comes time for you to get a promotion, they won't be able to give it to anybody now. They have to go by seniority. And so, like, if you do for a promotion and you get it, that's more money.
The organizers tackled multiple challenges on a daily basis, from motivating workers to debriefings and tactical sessions.
So, do y'all want a union? Yeah. Do you want a union? Yeah.
With Hispanics comprising 60% of the workforce, a top priority of the UFCW was to create solidarity among all of the workers.
We know from history that the struggle for workers' rights always implodes at the issue of race in the South. The bosses, if you will, the people who run the corporations know that. So they pit whites and blacks and Hispanics against each other when they need to understand that together they're strong. So we felt like the Smithfield campaign had implications for the whole nation.
As more and more Hispanic workers became union activists, Smithfield initiated hardball tactics.
One of the tools or tactics that we saw companies use to squash organizing efforts like the one at Tar Heel was the use of Social Security no-match letters as a way to really threaten and retaliate against leaders who are speaking out.
And this letter told 1,000 of these workers, including some of them had been in the plant more than a decade, that if you couldn't prove to me within 2 weeks that you have the proper Social Security number, you're fired.
Yeah.
You ever feel like the only place you can find cars is in car commercials? Oh, this isn't a car commercial. This is an Auto Trader commercial. And this is one of the millions of new and used cars that you can find on Auto Trader. You can find cars like the ones on your favorite show. Oh, no. Or the car in this show. Get out the water. I bet I can even find the cars in my feed. Sure can.
Proof that I'm legal in the country.
I was going to go down that afternoon for the meeting, and I get a phone call that they closed the plant. They just walked out, 1,000 of them. That was like a shocker. The idea of 1,000 workers, many of whom, probably didn't have documents, striking against a company who was threatening them because of their immigration status, when they were totally vulnerable. And they did it anyway. The solidarity was incredible. We wanted to go back with a win. And so we decided on a set of demands that included everyone back to work when the strike's over, no punishment of any kind. Workers who had previously been fired for the Social Security no-match letter before the walkout, they got returned to work, and the company agreed to meet with a committee of workers voted on by the workers to try and change and improve this process. There was a raid in the plant. Company arrested, I think it was 22 immigrant workers. Inside the plant, they quietly ushered them into a room one by one, didn't tell them why they were coming there. The ICE, the INS agents were there, took them off, put them in jail and deported them.
And I remember when we was working in the line and I saw one Mexican guy, you know, they went to Asia and he never come back.
That sent shockwaves through the plant because we had just gotten the Social Security no-match letters reversed. We thought that we had, we were going to buy some time. It created total panic in the plant.
This raid was followed by an August 2007 sweep of undocumented workers by ICE agents.
And it's the same tactic that is being used where they come in pre-dawn, they start circling trailer parks and areas like that at about 3 in the morning and banging on the doors and shaking trailers, cutting off power. This has happened in multiple counties across the state.
And there is, a woman who, she was a single mother. She got picked up in the raid and they haven't been able to find her. She's got young daughters who don't know where their mother is, and family that's taking care of the kids here, but I can't even imagine, being under 10 years old and one day your mother doesn't come home from work and you can't find her, that's not okay.
Smithfield had their tactics. They would throw anti-union meetings.
U.S. labor law gives management the right to mandatorily haul people into meetings where they force people to listen to speeches and watch videos about the union being a bunch of liars and thieves and all they want is your money and so on. And so very, very intimidating sorts of things.
And so that morning we came into work and one of the supervisors was going around and telling people, they would send so many, like 10 or 12 from each department, and then everybody would meet up there. And Terry and Ali, Oliver Hunt, and Terry Slaughter, we called him Ali for short.
So then when I started, I actually got introduced I actually was working beside Keith and Slaughter, Terry Slaughter. And then we would always sit down and break and stuff and talk, and then we started doing a lot of actions and stuff with it.
There'll be like 100, 200 people, workers in the meeting. Had a plant manager come up and he's like, the union is not good for you. All they want to do is take your money.
And they would show all kind of films and talk about how it wasn't a great thing to have a union in there, but they would never show no kind of stories or nothing on why it would be great to have a union in.
We would sit in the front, the only 3 people out of 300 people with yellow shirts on, and every time the manager would say something on the microphone, we would raise our hand and ask questions. Keith would go first. He'd be like, if the union is gonna go on a strike, what's the process for the strike? Don't even worry about that. Anybody got any more questions? I raised my hand. I said, well, we're waiting for an answer. I mean, you're telling people these lies. They were like, you have your own meeting. Then you can answer and ask your own questions. And then Ali would raise his hand. You tell us to have our own meetings, but you tell us we can't have a union. You come here, we ask you questions. You can't ask the questions. You can't answer the questions. And you expect all these people to believe you? You know what? This is what we're going to do. We're not taking no more questions.
For the most part, I guess, when that was going on, like a lot of the workers that weren't active as far as trying to get a union in there really didn't understand what a union meant. So, like, when somebody that would, like, Slaughter or Keith, would stand up and ask the question, and then the manager would say, no, you can't ask that in here, you can't do that in here, then it would kind of make other people curious to really understand what a union was about.
They have another meeting. They told our management, my immediate management, don't bring the black guy and the white guy and the Indian guy to the meetings no more. We don't want them together no more. They try to separate us. You know what though? You can't separate us.
The seesaw of the fight took its daily toll on the workers. Building and maintaining a sense of hope went on 24/7.
Where do it stands right now exactly?
Where it stands right
Don't
now
vote.
exactly is we're still going to go forward trying to pressure them into getting in this election. Now we got to pick it up and put a lot of pressure on them. We're going to keep doing that.
¿Fuera en la Junta ahora? Sí. Ok. Ya sabes, lo que están diciendo las compañías que quieren elección aquí.
Ask them why they won't let you guys have a union like the other 22,000 Smithfield employees that already have a union.
They can say whatever they want, but you know better because you work there every day, each and every day. With the knife in your hand, just like Marquita's hand when it was injured, right? How'd they treat you when they was injured? Yeah, how'd they treat you?
Like, correct?
Educate your coworkers about what the union is, right? Get to that meeting, educate them, talk to them, all right? Have a good night. God bless, man. Thanks.
Our presence inside the plant strengthened. We created this newsletter, Hogs Gone Wild, that was the story of workers in the plant. Instead of doing these health and safety actions, they wanted to do these public meetings in the plant. And because the workers eat lunch in the cafeterias every day, sometimes there'd be as many as 1,000 in a single room. And so Terry Slaughter and some of the livestock leaders decided what they would do was they would march over into the main cafeteria with their Justice of Smithfield t-shirts on and their Hogs Gone Wild newsletter, and they would hold a union meeting, and they would talk union right in front of big crowds of workers who weren't working.
We had meetings in the plants. We lined it up in the hall and passed out literature and stuff and talked to people. And before we would go to we would meet and go at the store before people go to work on second shift and first shift. They were doing little actions. I would go in on third shift. I have to be to work at 10. I would go in at 8 o'clock and do stuff before I went to my job because we was intending to get the union in Smithfield this time around.
One day, it was 6 in the morning. We go to work. It's 95 degrees outside. It's hot as hell. We already work in the elements. We asked for drinking water, some water to drink while you're out in the heat. They bring water, but they bring hot water.
They would just bring coolers and stuff and set them back there, and then the hogs would have access to go over there and just suck off the nozzle that we would have to get our water and stuff from.
That afternoon, we had a meeting with all our co-workers, the ones who was ready and willing to fight for what was right, and we told them, if tomorrow, if they come here and they give us hot water and they don't give us the water on time, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna sit down.
Most of us in livestock decided to refuse to work until they addressed the problem and fixed it on a permanent basis and everything. And if the hogs aren't being run into the facility, the facility isn't running.
Cold water never came. So we told them, listen, go get the plant manager. Don't get the department manager, go get the plant manager. He comes down there and asks us, what's going on? We tell him, look at that water. Look at the coolers. He had his HR manager with him, which is Jessica Wilson, told her, taste the water. She tasted water, and she don't want to say nothing. She's like, oh, okay. What does okay mean? Okay means that water hot, and that's answering that other cooler.
And yeah, they come out and they threaten us with all kind of letters and stuff like that. They gave everybody sitting down an envelope, and they even talked to us about the next time that we sat down like that during the action that we would be fired. It was in the letter. It was crazy, but it's worth it.
News traveled inside the plant. They're like, hey, them livestock employees, they conducted a work stoppage. For real, for what? They ain't get no cold water. They got in trouble? No. Why? Because all of them sat down. It was collective concerted activity.
Once we got employees to stop being afraid, and just make a decision, do you want a union or don't you want a union? If you want a union, then this is what we have to do, no matter what the consequences.
They had brick masons. They actually built us our own lunchroom. They put TVs and refrigerators in there, vending machines. I think that right there really actually did something to the entire plant. Now we know that we made that happen, you know, this ball's about to gain some steam, and we about to make something really, really big happening here.
The union, the NAACP, and other national social justice organizations now geared up for a major protest in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Conditions on the kill floor. We have heard of a sister on whom a 200-pound carcass fell, and she could not get the treatment that she needed to get. We have heard of injuries from sharp knives because people had to work too hard and too fast. That's right. We have heard of your inability to get clear drinking water on a sweltering hot day in North Carolina. We have heard of your suffering. We are going to take this message on the authority of your suffering into the boardroom of Smithfield and declare on this day, we are calling on you to change your way and to conform to the righteousness of God.
Because we know it's a war on workers in Smithfield, so we sing as we have always sung, and we sing together the group. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like the tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Smithfield, we need to move forward. Stop the propaganda and start the process with the union and the workers. Put away union-busting consultants and come to the table with union workers. Stop dividing Black and Hispanic and develop a plan to pull all of us together. When Smithfield does this, we'll stop marching. When Smithfield does this, we'll stop protesting. When Smithfield does this, we'll stop organizing. Had proxies to actually go into the shareholders meeting.
It was very, very tense. I've never been treated so rude when I stood to speak.
They asked anybody, have any questions? I said, I got 10 coworkers here with me. I got 3,000 coworkers outside. They're wondering why you won't let them have a union inside a Tar Heel plant.
People were cut off, and I say people, I was. And you had an armed guard standing beside you.
We are the union! The mighty, mighty union!
The atmosphere outside was powerful and festive. And kind of the connection between inside and outside is when people start acting like that, you know that the heat is intensifying under their pants.
But at that time, all the shareholders inside was in an uproar. What's going on? What's going on down there in North Carolina at that Tar Heel facility? What's all this ruckus? And they all looking out the windows, going outside, looking outside, and they see all the yellow shirts, and they're like, whoa.
And it was great inspiration of the workers, and the company was furious. They went to court in October of 2007, sued the president of the union, myself, my communications director, Leela. They sued everybody they could sue, Jobs with Justice, and demanded millions of dollars of compensation for what they said was extortionate behavior on behalf of the union.
They claim that I cost them $90 million in profits because of this air war. Now, of course, that wasn't true, but that was their claim. And I believe they had about 9 PR firms, and all we had was me.
RICO, it's the Racketeering, Influence, and Corruption Act. It's a federal law that was originally designed to go after organized crime. It was never intended for these kinds of situations, but company lawyers, they got very creative and said, well, the union is campaigning against us and organizing consumers to write letters to us and pressure us and putting out videos and holding press conferences and conferences saying bad things about us and the way we treat employees. And really, you know, they're trying to get more dues out of workers. And so that's the threat. That's the idea of the economic benefit to be gained by the extortionate activity. Now, the extortionate activity is nothing more or less than the exercise of free speech under the First Amendment to the Constitution.
The RICO lawsuit backfired on Smithfield. Instead of retreating, the UFCW redoubled its efforts. One key issue for the workers was the company's steadfast refusal to honor Martin Luther King Day.
Martin Luther King Day comes, we asking can we have off? They said no.
So the workers, you know, wanted to have that as a recognized holidays by the company, and the company refused, even after we had gotten a petition up with thousands of signatures.
Company denies union members, African Americans, Martin Luther King birthday. Company threatens to fire African Americans. Got picked up by AP and carried in 70 cities around the country.
Hundreds of workers out there, Latinos, blacks, whites. Nobody's working.
Dr. King in '67, I think with the AFL-CIO, said the only groups that could engage and create transformative change in America would be for blacks, Latinos, and whites, and labor groups and civil rights organizations to come together.
And the next year, Martin Luther King was recognized by the company as a holiday.
Martin King also saw a Jericho Road in Memphis, Tennessee, when public service workers who worked to keep the city clean by removing its trash were treated unfairly and were not respected in their demands for humane treatment.
UFCW, you and I share a vision for America. We believe that every American should have a fair shot at life.
In February 2008, the UFCW endorsed Barack Obama for president, the second union in the United States to do so. For many Smithfield workers, the two campaigns became inextricably linked.
When Obama came out with Yes We Can, there was a lot of employees was wearing on their hard hats, yes we can, yes we can. And that yes we can and union time, it helped a lot.
In response, Smithfield banned the marking of hard hats. The UFCW protested this as a violation of free speech, and the company backed down.
Smithfield knew that when we wrote that union time on our hats, that we were really serious about what we was planning to do. And we put that union time and everybody got to write union time on their hats. They won't no stopping then. We had to go with it. So we had to do what we had to do. We know we had to pull it off.
We subpoenaed through the court process all their health and safety documents, the things they would never give us. And we were confident going into that court that if we were going to, if we were given a fair chance in front of a jury to tell the story of the health and safety problems in that plant, that the company would lose. And I don't think the company ultimately decided, I don't think they wanted those stories told in an open court.
In October 2008, the night before the RICO lawsuit was to come to trial, Smithfield and the UFCW reached a settlement, and the case was dismissed.
I was there.
You ever feel like the only place you can find cars is in car commercials? Oh, this isn't a car commercial. This is an Auto Trader commercial. And this is one of the millions of new and used.
Waiting to go to court the next day. And we woke up that morning and we were told that in the wee hours of the morning, there had been an agreement. And I think part of the pressure on Smithfield was they knew we had a pretty aggressive and robust communications operation. And we were going to make sure the press heard what was coming out in that courtroom.
You know, it's kind of like a ceasefire was agreed to. You know, both parties would stop, you know, slamming the other one. And the company agreed to give us access to the plant.
Workers try to decide, is the union tough enough, strong enough, smart enough to beat the company? Or is the company too tough and the union too weak? And if it is, even if we're for the union, we better stick with the company because they're probably going to win.
Making history today.
Yeah, it's history all over again. Start here in Little Tar Heel, North Carolina. It's just going to take unity from everybody. We all just got to stand together and we can get whatever we want.
It's actually a day in history. It's very important that everybody votes today, votes yes for the union, and hopefully everybody will vote yes.
The reason why it's historic because we really need this union. Get better benefits, better wages, more respect and dignity. Safety.
Just being involved in this campaign made me a stronger individual and made me stand up for what I actually believe in. This is actually one moment to where I actually feel like I accomplished something.
Amen. All right, let's get this union time real quick. Let's get in here. Count already. 2, 3. Union time!
When they got to the table to count the votes where I was working at, it was like every time I would get a yes, they would get a no. And it wind up, we came up tied at the table I was at. So it was one more table left to bring us out of it. And we all gathered around that table. And it was like, boom, boom. And it came up that we got ahead. And I was like, oh, yes, we got this. We got this.
Oh, I'm coming one. We did it! I know our battle is over, girl.
It's a terrible thing when people don't have hope, you know, when the hope has been beat out of them, you know, and to be able to put that back in, you know, it's a great amount of satisfaction to see that hope come alive and grow and blossom and shine.
You're making history right now. It took 17 years for us to make this happen. You made it happen. Thank God.
It is a war. Well, it was a war. You know, I mean, it's still, I mean, even though there's a union, I guess it's still going to be some type of a little fight to, you know, to keep making it better and better for people as it goes on. But, you know, you can't never stop fighting.
When those 5,000 workers start to speak, they gotta be heard. It's a lot of people talking at one time. You can't ignore it. It's like a big roar, you know? So, I mean, it was our time.
I'm satisfied, but I keep working, you know?
doing anything to be better and for the workers. It's always about the workers. It's always about the best thing for the worker.
We put our ass whipping on now.
As soon as I got down here and I started meeting the workers in that plant, I realized that we were going to be able to do it. We don't know how to fight the fight inside the plant. That's what Terry Slaughter knows how to do. That's what LB knows how to do. That's what all the workers in the plant know how to do. I've been doing this for 30 years. And I have never met a more courageous group of workers in my entire life.
It was a feeling that I hadn't felt in a long time. You work for this multi-million-dollar company for 12 years, and the struggle that you had to go through to get there, and we got there, it was just phenomenal.
You got to first get the fear out. After you get the fear out, you good to go. When I got that fear out of me, I was like, man, there won't nothing could stand in my way then.
The victory at Tar Heel was the biggest in UFCW history. Even more remarkable was it occurred in a right-to-work state with the lowest rate of union membership in the country.
Workers feel that they've got some stake in their company now. This is a place to work. Then they can hold their head up when they say, "Where do you work?" "Oh, I work at Smithfield." And management certainly benefit from that. This is a win-win for all.
The success is also, I think, attributable to the coalition that was built among the civil rights community, community organizing, the advocacy community within North Carolina, the human rights community that came into the struggle. And to be honest, I think that credit has to be given to Smithfield that they saw the light, or that they, but I think that also you do need for management to look deep into their hearts and say, look, do we want to live in a kind of constant struggle with people who are trying to organize? There are conflicts will arise, and the whole idea is that you have a system for resolving conflicts that doesn't require constant warfare.
This story is about a movement. The Tar Heel victory demonstrates the power of faith and perseverance. It has inspired other meatpacking workers that solidarity can turn around unsafe labor practices. In 2013, Smithfield Foods and the members of UFCW Local 1208 signed a second 4-year contract, signifying the success of their working relationship.
We feel like I have respect. The whole bunch of respect. They know that I have a voice in there. They know that I will not be intimidated by them.
It shows the benefits to employees and companies of paying a living wage. It inspires people from all walks of life who come together to fight for justice, that there is reason for hope.
Dean, can you hear me? It's Judy.